It's Lauren Adams, and I'm going to continue reading The Temple Not Made with Hands by Walter C. Landon. We're reading The God Spake Voice on page 170. Yes, the shell of consciousness must be cracked. The bucket of water must be emptied into the sea. Life contained in the little body must be freed into the universal. Losing the human sense of anything is means of finding it, for you are only losing a bondage in order to gain a new state of freedom. A chick must lose its shell, or that very shell which was its protection becomes its bondage. The egg must be absorbed into the bird. Nothing is lost or wasted except for the breaking of the shell, the rending of the conscious thinking. Jesus soon found that he could do nothing with the limitations of Jesus, and so he said, I can of myself do nothing. If Jesus, the greatest way-shower we have known, found that he could do nothing, then why will you persist in attempting to do things? Anything that is separated from the whole begins to go down in quality. The moment we first began this separation, we are ushered, self-ushered, out of the garden. And we have been going down in quality steadily ever since. We have gone from a loaf to a half loaf to a slice, and presently we could be with the dogs under the table of life, picking up crumbs. Awake, thou that sleepest. Awake and rise from the dead, and Christ shall give thee light. Awake and see what has happened to your voice. It has been stopped down to the narrow limitations of the human life. And it speaks of itself, and it speaks a lie. It keeps making one compromise after another until finally it has to admit that it is defeated. At no time can it speak with any authority for itself, because it has no power to do so. Jesus, finding this out early, abandoned the idea that he could of himself do anything. When we find this out, we find wisdom. We turn from the teaching of man and do a right about face straight into the consciousness of the God spake power that's been there all along. It is pitiful to see the so-called truth students qualifying everything they say. The practice of knocking on wood is not unknown to many of them. They are afraid to speak with authority because of the awful knowledge of the weakness of their words, which is as brittle as spun glass. They are afraid to speak in the first person and the present tense because they know that the little personality is a liar and it is not worthy of anything. Accordingly, they take refuge in false humility, unfitness, and unworthiness. A Uriah Heep rubbing his hands together in apparent holy submission, while his heart is flaming fiercely with revenge, resentment, jealousy, is the adequate picture of an enlightened man, for sure. This does not this pit of hell burn brightly in the knocker on wood, who cannot and dare not speak with authority because he speaks of himself. But God spake, and it was done. That does not mean that it was nearly done, halfway done, or would be done. If someone little personality gave the word of approval, it was done. There is such an act, an air of finality about the God spake, and a glorious possibility for us to blend the voice into the true voice of letting the voice become single, so that the whole embodiment can be filled with power and authority. I can of myself do nothing. I can do all things through Christ who strengtheneth me. What an acknowledgement of weakness for a teacher and leader, yea, for the revelator to make. But tarry a moment, the same voice is speaking such soul-stirring words as, arise and walk. And a crippled body leaps into glorious vitality and power, every muscle rippling with strength and life. And again the voice, open your eyes, and the sockets in which no eyes were ever known fill out with glorious organs of visions. There was apparently no knocking on wood, because there was nothing in it that made it necessary. It wasn't a demonstration. When the voice becomes single, thy whole body shall be filled with light. Stop talking of and about the thing once and for all, and just speak the word. When the word becomes single, thy whole body shall be filled with light. What a glorious thing for you to contemplate. Are you ready to drop off the stupid idea of making yourself a glorified personality, proclaiming to the world that the wonders of God seen through the glass darkly? No matter how grand you may be, man, or how many worlds should recognize you, or how lowly and ugly, and how the world should hate you, remember that Jesus charged it all off to nothing, brother. I can of myself do nothing. Come out from among them and be ye separate. Go out from the beliefs that you have been hugging to yourself all these years and begin the life in the present tense, the here and now, the presence of the power. And the God spake voice will be your voice, and the word of authority will be yours. For I am also a man of authority. For something so glorious and deeply moving will come to you that the chatter of personalities about their accomplishments and doings will fall away, and you will speak with the single voice, the word, the power, and the glory. It is wonderful. Only speak the word. Imagine having that said unto you. No one can say it unto you, little personality, any more than they could have said it to Jesus' personality. But the very same words were addressed to Jesus and can be addressed to you when you lose your life in the universal and can learn the God-spake power that lies within you, waiting for recognition. Jesus didn't invent anything. He recognized it. I will, no more, no less. And yet, what a world of glorious manifestations came through. No checking to see, no looking back to see if there were results, because before the word was spoken, the eternal wellness or wholeness of all of God's creatures was established. When thy voice becomes single, thy whole body shall be filled with light. It was just this light, just this voice, that drew all men unto it. What is the good of asking a carpenter to perform that which his physician should do, or vice versa? You must answer no good. And so it was with you. What is the good of asking you to do something which you are not capable of doing? No personality is capable of healing anything, because all personality is under the law of, when I would do good, I do evil. And is described as a broken reed, something to avoid. Yet people go on leaning on the broken reeds of personality. Awake, awake thou that sleepest, awake and arise from the dead, thoughts and beliefs. Dare you to use this voice. Dare you to speak the word, not you, and let it, and yet you. From the angle it could only be guesswork, hoping, wishing, beseeching, and from the other it would be done before it was spoken. Be still and know that I am God. Does not refer to the small measure of life shut away in your little body, but the universal life which can only be found when you lose your personal life you have been so vainly holding on to and protecting for all these years. The very voice which says it does not believe in evil has to protect itself from evil, and so it goes on until, like a cat chasing its own tail, it falls in its tracks and dies of futility. Free me, free me. Break down the narrow confines of the screeching voice of the little personality and let it be lost in the velvety overtones of the presence. So filled that something that it brings into manifestation what the eyes have not seen. Lost in this voice, you find yourself speaking with authority and immediately forgetting all about the little beliefs that was to overcome because of the coming into the being of the power and the presence of the God spake voice. God spake, and it was done, can only come into being when we learn to let not the right hand know what the left hand is doing. And when we cease to think of the results and manifestations of the power as something unusual or unexpected, the God spake voice cannot be surprised when what it spake is accomplished. When the thing is already accomplished and done, God spake voice is merely the breath which blows this thin gossamer of human belief away from the face of the truth of being. It blows away the net of human thoughts into which man has been enmeshed all the years he has known himself as apart from God. A glorious overtone of the soul shines through the voice, which differentiates it, the squeaking voice of man. The voice of the mimic can never speak with authority, though he be so perfect in his limitation that he fool the very elect. It is only an imitation and has no power back of it. His word would not carry through in the world of the person he was imitating because it lacks authority or the something that makes it genuine. So man imitating Jesus does not do the works of Jesus. And saying the works of God and the words of God does not do the works of God, and so on. It lacks the life substance, the here and now, or the authority which is hidden away in the God spake voice and absent from the voice of man. When Jesus let go of the little voice of the carpenter, he became the God spake voice. He spoke with authority. And so it is with you, whoever you are. God spake, and it was done. Because the glorious power behind the veil of human limitations, when recognized, instantly establishes that which is done and gives it an embodiment. It is so near you. It is so possible to you to lose the human voice and its limitations and blend with the word of the Father Word. You feel the deep inspiration of this voice, which is with you always, no matter where you are. When you are alone with me, when you one day just speak the word, the God spake word, in the bush